Well, good afternoon and Happy New Year to everyone in South Bend, St. Joseph County, as well as throughout Indiana. I'm Todd Rokita. I'm Indiana's Attorney General. I want to thank you all for joining us, including the media, for coming here in person to help me inform all Hoosiers. I'm glad to be here in St. Joseph County. I just came from the circuit court where I filed a very important lawsuit that deals directly with illegal immigration issues at your sheriff's department. I'll talk about that in detail in a moment, but first I also, and perhaps just as importantly or even more importantly, want to mention that before I filed this lawsuit, I was just down the street at the federal court. I attended and spoke at a naturalization ceremony where I witnessed immigrants who came here legally. I watched them get sworn in as U.S. citizens. I was proud to welcome them because they came here the right way, and they love our country. Several of them afterwards told me so. Thanks for saying what you did, Mr. Attorney General. People need to come here the right way. Several of them. Everyone was appreciative. Not only that I and others were there, but they became part of the American family today. So I want to say congratulations to them again. And what an inspiration they were. They did it the right way. They respected our laws. And for that, we respect them. President Trump respects them. And we welcome them to the American family. Now let me tell you about who's doing it the wrong way. Like I said just moments ago, I filed a lawsuit against St. Joseph County Sheriff Redmond and his department over their persistent practice of refusing to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. This includes refusing to notify ICE properly about the release of illegal aliens and also refusing to honor ICE detainers. This deliberate decision to not cooperate with federal immigration authorities is giving safe harbor to criminal aliens that need to be removed from our country and this county. It is making St. Joseph County act as a magnet to attract more illegals to want to come and live here and commit crime here. Crime that hurts law-abiding citizens, including our children. It's sad, but the local law enforcement here has become part of the problem, a big part. And I refuse, as your Attorney General, to just stand by and watch the lawlessness happen from law enforcement officials. After multiple communications with Sheriff Redmond to clean up the department's act, which have mostly been ignored, the department remains non-compliant with Indiana law. So now my office is taking the next step to enforce state law as passed by your General Assembly. I want to be clear. While we have a huge and serious disagreement with Redmond and his department, my office has the utmost respect for our men and women in blue and brown. I have a strong record of defending our police, not defunding them. And we will continue to support and defend our law enforcement in court. But we also hold those who deserve to be held accountable. Illegal immigration, as opposed to legal migration, is maybe the biggest issue we are facing right now in our country. President Joe Biden opened our border and created a crisis that now needs to be fixed. Because of him and his aiders and abettors right here in Indiana, every state is now a border state. And every one, including us right here, are paying the price for this lawlessness. I look forward to continue helping President Trump solve this, to fix it. But it will take the cooperation of all of us and all of law enforcement. Think of this. The influx of illegal aliens, which are coming from over 150 different countries, have strained our schools, and our children are suffering as the result. It has caused unneeded stress on law enforcement, local hospitals, healthcare facilities, and our housing and labor markets. I met with a teacher a few months ago. She had tears running down her face. She said she was retiring. I asked what was wrong. She was much too young to retire. She said, "I'm retiring because I can't take it anymore." And I thought I was going to get a comment about teacher pay or some other issue along those lines, which is also a real issue. But instead, she told me that every day she gets a list of additional names added to her classroom size, names she can't pronounce, and she ends up spending every class hour calling an 800 number, where she then is made to pick between multiple translators so that she can explain the lesson plan to these new kids. Now, it's not the kids' fault, but they shouldn't be here. It's not fair to the children of the taxpayers who are sitting there in that same classroom waiting to be taught while their teacher is online or on the phone trying to translate lesson plans in multiple languages. It's not fair. It's not fair to our taxpayers, it's not fair to law enforcement, it's not fair to our already overburdened hospitals. And frankly, we have had enough of the problems that are being caused. And thanks to the election in November, now at least, instead of an obstacle in the White House, I and you have an ally. You are already seeing a flurry of action coming from the new administration on this issue, and we are ready to continue our work with them and have already been working for quite some time on getting this crisis under control, at least here in Indiana. Remember last session, the General Assembly passed a law authorizing my office to file lawsuits against any Indiana colleges, universities, or units of local government not enforcing current Indiana laws that ban sanctuary cities here in the state. We take that authority extremely seriously and have already made a ton of progress on this front. We worked with the West Lafayette Police Department to successfully revise its policies to ensure the enforcement of federal immigration laws. East Chicago officials also repealed their unlawful immigration ordinance in response to my office's efforts. Gary officials repealed their unlawful immigration ordinance after being pressed by me and my office. And in the case of the Monroe County Sheriff, Bloomington, Indiana, who also refused to cooperate, we have an ongoing lawsuit there. Obviously, this is a county that contains Bloomington and Indiana University, and today we are bringing that similar type of lawsuit against Sheriff Redmond and his department. My office will not stop in our work here on this issue until the law is followed and we put our people first over illegal aliens. What is happening in Monroe County and here in St. Joseph County isn't fair to Hoosier taxpayers or legal immigrants who came here the right way, like the ones I just met with and spoke with. Like I said earlier, that naturalization ceremony was beautiful to see. It's not the same as illegal immigration, and you all know that. We want to be patriots to the United States who would add value to our country and want to live their lives under the values of this country and the values we were founded upon. If your first act in our country is entering it illegally, you should not be allowed to stay. Now, other than working to eliminate sanctuary cities throughout the state, my office is also investigating potential labor trafficking networks here in the state. Amid ongoing concerns from community members and elected officials about large-scale influx of illegal aliens and legal immigrants, quote unquote, into their communities, my office has issued civil investigative demands to officials, employers, and nonprofits alike. They include Tyson Foods, the Cass County Health Department, the Logansport Community School Corporation, Berry Global Incorporated in Evansville, Tent Partnership for Refugees, the God is Good Foundation, and the Jackson County Industrial Development Corporation. I want to be clear, these CIDs, unlike the lawsuit we just filed here, are not an accusation of wrongdoing. My office simply has reasonable cause to believe that these entities may have information that could assist our work, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. We will continue looking into this growing issue and report back when we have more that we can share. So I would stay tuned. A lot of work has been done so far, and we will continue pushing forward. We hope that Sheriff Redmond and his department will begin to work with us to follow the law. That will be the best outcome and would save the taxpayers the most money and keep us all safer. We will happily rescind this lawsuit if they do, but if not, they will continue facing legal consequences. With that, I want to bring up Blake Lanny, who is the office's Assistant Chief Deputy and one of the main people in charge of handling these actions, to come and take questions. We'll both take questions. And Aaron Ridlin, the Section Chief, who is also instrumental along with his section in drafting the complaint and investigating it, will also take questions. So thank you very much again for having us, and thank you for your interest in this most important issue.
I have a mic right here. If you have a question, if you could talk.
No one can hear you.
If you have a question, feel free to hear.
Hi, Attorney General. There was limited notice for this press conference this morning. We learned pretty quickly that the city wasn't quite aware, the South Bend Police Department wasn't aware that this press conference was happening. Who was all informed? Was there a reason that they weren't informed?
I don't usually inform defendants that I'm filing a lawsuit against them.
And is it only against the St. Joseph County Sheriff's Department, or is the city and the South Bend Police Department listed as well?
It's the county.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. And then in the
But thanks for coming on limited notice or not. I appreciate your interest in this. Who do you represent?
ABC 57.
Thank you.
In the past, the county's police department has said that they don't believe that they have any sanctuary city laws, and that they are in compliance. And what would you say to that previous statement that they had sent out after that letter you posted on social media?
This is the response.
Yeah.
They're being sued. We have a difference of opinion. Next. No, this is for the press.
Press, yes.
What is the sheriff being asked to do that he's not doing specifically, or?
To comply with Indiana law. So Indiana law says that you can't have any policies that restrict communication between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. The lawsuit maintains that they in fact are, and they either have policies or practices that do that. Secondly, you can't limit or restrict your policies, practices, or local ordinance to anything less than the federal law allows. And we believe that they may be doing that as well. I can let Blake talk in more detail about that, but I think that answers your question. But you have a frown on your face like it doesn't, so if you have a quick follow-up, you're welcome to it.
Been asked to report suspicions of illegal entry, or?
I can tell you, for example, that in response to that in March to September 2024, for example, the Monroe County Sheriff's Department released 9 detainees into the community. Some of these detainees had charges or convictions of burglary, DUI, assault on law enforcement. So that's an example of the non-compliance that we're talking about.
You mentioned that the Hispanic students who come here the right way, as you claim, how are they able to?
Before you start,
Yeah.
Tell us who you represent.
WVPE,
Yeah.
88.1 FM.
And your name.
Jeff Parrott. So how are these students who come here the right way, how are they able to learn English so well that they don't need to be bothered to be taught any Spanish?
I don't understand what you're meaning.
You said that these the students who aren't coming here the right way need to be taught English, and it's causing this big problem for the schools. So how are the kids who?
I'm sorry, that's not what I said. You shouldn't take my story as a comment to go learn English. You should take my story as a point of reflection that our schools are being overrun in some areas, if not every school district, by illegal alien children who are overflowing the classroom, taking up resources like they're taking away law enforcement resources, like they're taking up hospital resources, and distracting from the learning of the children of the taxpayers that are there. That's the point.
Okay, you mentioned the language. So
Well, as 800, yeah. It's an example. When a teacher has to spend the time in the classroom to go translate lesson plans, she's not teaching the lesson plan, right?
Hi there, I'm Gabby Luma. I'm with WSBT-22. So what is your expectation of these school districts throughout the state, and how will you treat them if they aren't cooperative with these mass deportations? I know you were talking about.
Stay tuned on that one. We haven't focused on school districts particularly. I think that's what your question went to, and but we're getting some information about school districts from around the state and about their non-cooperation, especially with the new administration. So I remain committed to help the Trump administration rid our communities of lawbreakers like illegal aliens.
Okay.
And did you identify yourself? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm Gabby Luma. I'm with WSBT-22. And then also kind of following up, the Department of Homeland Security have they handed down any mandates?
I'm sorry, there's a terrible echo, and just slow down and talk louder for me.
Has the Department of Homeland Security handed down any mandates specifically for states to carry out any mass deportations so far?
I'm not aware of anything to this state yet. And again, we've been working on this since before the new administration. The law came into effect here in the state, I believe, over a year ago now, and we've been working since that time. So I don't know that we're going to get any mandates or anything.
So
but
you
maybe.
don't expect any, or?
I don't know. I'm not aware of any. Thank you.
Any more press with questions?
WNDU, Mark Peterson.
Can't hear you.
Pardon me.
I had one question. Don Schoenfeld with WNDU. The mayor yesterday of South Bend said they don't have the staffing to go out and search and, take care of arresting people who are illegal immigrants. Don't know what the status is for the county, but what's your
Well,
response?
to be clear, Indiana law doesn't require the mayor or the police department or the sheriff's department to go out and search. It requires cooperation with the people that are looking, namely ICE. So that's all in a nutshell, that's what our law requires, is basic cooperation that you would find across law enforcement agencies at every level, every day, on every other issue, frankly. And so really those that don't want to share that communication, those that don't want to cooperate, those that don't want to keep a detainee an extra 24 or 48 hours so that ICE can get them and remove them from our country, I don't see that as a law enforcement officer. I don't see that as a drag on a budget. I see that as basic cooperation between agencies on criminal issues that are affecting the safety of the communities that they're supposed to protect. Okay,
Can I do one more?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm Annie again from ABC 57. So can you elaborate a little bit what cooperation specifically would look like from Sheriff Redmond? Because it's seeming like, they feel as though they are already following Indiana code, Indiana law, and what exactly would cooperation look like?
They're not, and I'll turn it over to Blake to go through some of the details in the lawsuit, which we'll make available to you guys, of course, and of course it's public record. But we had several correspondence with them. One was returned unsigned, a response was made unsigned, and other correspondence has been ignored. So we've been very specific about what we need and what they're not doing, and I'll let Blake give some more details to your question.
Blake Lanning, Assistant Chief Deputy of the Office. Blake Lanning, Assistant Chief Deputy of the Office. As the Attorney General was just saying, I think the lawsuit we filed today focuses on kind of two big areas of non-cooperation. The biggest one would be complying with ICE detainer request. As the Attorney General mentioned, we've been in communication with federal law enforcement. They've made clear that St. Joseph County Sheriff on multiple occasions persistently, regularly refuses to comply with ICE detainer requests. So that's, I think, a great example of what we're talking about, non-cooperation. We've put that in the letters that we've sent to St. Joseph County Sheriff, spelled that out, have not received responses or satisfactory responses on that. And beyond the detainer requests that ICE sends out, which are integral to how ICE does its work, free and open communications between ICE and local law enforcement is also key. And again, based on what we've seen in official, ICE reports and communicating with federal authorities, we also have grounds to believe that the St. Joseph County Sheriff is not engaged in that free and open communication as well.
Sorry, quick follow-up. How
Yeah.
binding are these detainer requests? Are they requests or mandates?
So that's a good question, right? So the federal government cannot mandate compliance with a detainer request because the federal government cannot order state and local officials to do federal government enforcement activities. However, the state of Indiana can order local law enforcement to comply with the detainer request. So if it were just coming from the federal government and the General Assembly had passed no law on this, then yes, it would just be a detainer request, and that's how people usually talk about it. But because the General Assembly in our state passed a law saying when the federal law enforcement wants cooperation, you have to give it to them, and you cannot prohibit your agents and officers from cooperating, that's what turns a federal request into something that you have some obligation to either abide by or at least not affirmatively restrict your agents from complying with. So anyways, the legal mandate component of it, I guess if you want to call it that, comes from state law, not federal law. And that's the law we're enforcing.
And then we have one more, Blake.
Yeah.
Joe Ditz from South Bend Tribune. So can you give us an idea of when these non-compliances happen, when this lack of communication happened?
Sure. So, and I think the Attorney General mentioned this, we know between March and September of 2024, 6-month period last year, there were 9 detainer requests, according to ICE, federal authorities, that were sent to St. Joseph County Sheriff, not complied with, and as a result, thwarted ICE's efforts to apprehend illegal aliens that were in this county. And since September of 2024, as the Attorney General mentioned, we've engaged in back and forth correspondence, which, if he wasn't already on notice, would have put the county sheriff on notice of what the expectations of state law and requirements of state law are. And through subsequent communications with ICE, we confirmed that detainer requests are still not being complied with, including maybe as many as 4 since we sent our last letter to the county sheriff in December.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out, and thank you for everyone for tuning in on our Facebook page. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for not.
Really?
Okay with this one.
Yeah?
Maybe
Okay.
next time.
Well, it was a long drive otherwise, but nice day.
I'm John Paul. Thanks for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel.